From WKOW TV Madison, this is Channel 27 News at 10 with Jeff Gillen and Wendy Warren. Straight to the point.
Tonight there is irony in the words of Jeffrey Dahmer from his sentencing 2 years ago.
Frankly, I wanted death for myself. I know my time in prison will be terrible, but I deserve whatever I get because of what I have done.
Dahmer's time in prison brought him death. Hello, everyone. Jeff is off tonight. Jeffrey Dahmer was killed this morning. We now know who authorities think killed him. 25-year-old Christopher Scarver is an inmate who shared a housing unit with Dahmer. Our corrections officers say he's a convicted killer from Milwaukee County who's been in the Portage prison since 1992. He is up for parole in 2042. They don't believe he is connected to Jeffrey Dahmer in any way. They do not believe that the attack was racially motivated. Dahmer was beaten to death at the state prison in Portage. Nighttime reporter Rachel Kisko takes us through exactly what happened.
Jeffrey Dahmer was cleaning bathrooms in the prison gym this morning, just like he'd done the past 3 weeks. Dahmer, convicted killer Jesse Anderson, and another inmate were on the same work detail. Corrections officials say they think that third inmate beat Dahmer and Anderson to a pulp.
At approximately 8:10 a.m., a correctional officer who entered the gymnasium with 2 inmates who were coming there to do recreation discovered Mr. Dahmer's body in the staff bathroom.
Anderson's body was found a short time later in a shower room. He's in critical condition tonight. Jeffrey Dahmer died on the way to the hospital from massive head injuries.
We did not believe that Mr. Dahmer was at undue risk.
Dahmer was attacked this past July in what Sullivan calls an isolated incident. He says there's no indication Dahmer was a target or that prison guards did anything wrong. Still, Sullivan says the attack should not have happened. He calls it a tragedy.
Anytime anyone is murdered, wherever that occurs, it's a tragedy. That's the basis of a civilized society. Murder is unacceptable, whether it's outside of a prison or in a prison.
Sullivan says a bloody broom handle was found in the prison gym area. He doesn't know if Dahmer and Anderson were beaten with it or something else, or if they were slammed into the floor or tiled walls. There were 2 guards assigned to the gym at the time. One had to leave for a few minutes. Sullivan says he's going to set up a panel to review the policy and procedures in the prison. Reporting from the 27 Newsroom, I'm Rachel Kisko.
Well, Jeffrey Dahmer's gruesome crimes are hard to forget. In 1991, he admitted to murdering 17 young men and boys, luring most to his Milwaukee apartment from malls or gay bars, killing them, and then eating their body parts. As Nighttime reporter Shannon Taggart tells us, Dahmer's death brings little comfort to the families of those victims.
Counsel table.
In 1992, a Milwaukee jury found Dahmer sane on 15 counts of murder. The judge sentenced him to mandatory life in prison for each charge, but could do nothing to ease the pain or the anger of his victims' loved ones. Today's news of Dahmer's own brutal death did not console Catherine Lacey. Dahmer murdered her 23-year-old son, Oliver.
The hurt is worse now because he's not suffering like we are.
Shirley Hughes feels the same way. Her son Tony had been missing from Madison for 2 months when police told her he was also one of Dahmer's victims.
He just come into my life and just reaching and just pulled my heart out, just twisted everything apart. And by him being dead, it still don't stop because it was done before he died.
Meanwhile, the attorney for 8 of the victims' families today pushed police to release Dahmer's belongings for auction, including the refrigerator where he kept his victims' body parts and the kettle where he boiled their skulls.
We don't consider that there's been closure on the Dahmer chapter episode as far as the victim families are concerned until there's compensation.
The families are hoping to raise about $100,000 from selling Dahmer's things, but they say there can never be any true compensation for the horrors he created. Shannon Taggart, Channel 27 News.
Well, the man who defended Jeffrey Dahmer says he is not surprised by his death.
I wasn't shocked because I thought that Jeffrey Dahmer would end up this way.
Gerald Boyle says Dahmer never mentioned fearing for his life in prison.
He would never show any emotion. He certainly never showed any fear. He never showed any emotion. That's what made him so unique. So I don't think there was a situation there where he was worried about his safety.
Well, the attorney who prosecuted Dahmer says he worried people will admire Dahmer's killer. E. Michael McCann says he doesn't want the suspect to emerge as a new folk hero. The minister who baptized Dahmer is mourning his death this evening. Reverend Roy Radcliffe had been meeting with Dahmer nearly every week since May. That is when Radcliffe baptized him. Reverend Radcliffe considered Dahmer a personal friend.
He was grateful that he had not been put to death, although in his own opinion, that's probably what he deserved. And I told him when I stood with him that I agreed with him, that I thought that was probably true.
Radcliffe's one of the last people outside the prison to see Dahmer alive. His last meeting with Dahmer was the day before Thanksgiving. The Reverend says Dahmer had a deep faith in God, and for that reason, Radcliffe believes Dahmer is with God tonight. Murder charges were filed today against David Spanbauer. He was charged with killing Cora Jones. According to the criminal complaint released today, Spanbauer strangled and stabbed the 12-year-old 5 hours after abducting her. Spanbauer confessed to Cora's murder and 12 others, including that of 10-year-old Ronnie Eichstead. An accused rapist appeared in Dane County Court today. Ronnie Metz is charged with raping a Monona woman last month. Police say he broke into her home and assaulted her at knife point. Metz is charged with 2 counts of first-degree sexual assault with a weapon. Police say he's a suspect in several other break-ins and rapes. And police have arrested 2 more people in connection with the shooting last Wednesday here on West Broadway. Don Soborinsky and Dennis Franklin are now in jail. Franklin faces attempted murder charges in the shooting of 19-year-old Antoine Buzzy, who is in fair condition. 3 teenagers have also been arrested. Sue Ann Thompson has breast cancer and will have surgery tomorrow. The governor's spokesman says Mrs. Thompson has a small cancerous breast tumor that will be removed, and that a full scan revealed no evidence of other tumors or cancers. The lumpectomy, as it's called, will be done at UW Hospital. The governor will be with her. Mrs. Thompson will then have 6 weeks of outpatient radiation therapy. The first winter storm of the season caused quite a few fender benders. County officials say it was the worst around rush hour when their crews were caught a little by surprise. It took a while to get salt out onto the Beltline where it was the worst, along with highways K and Q north of Middleton. But everything was covered by around 8:30, and now there are just scattered slippery spots, so still be pretty careful out there. Good news tonight for job hunters in Wisconsin. A survey released today predicts hiring rates in 1995 will stack higher than past years, making the job outlook in Wisconsin the best it's been in 5 years. Sheboygan employers are looking to add the most workers, Monroe the least, where they're probably planning the most cutbacks. Well, the battle over world trade and the GATT agreement heats up, and some little children took on a big responsibility, saving lives. Plus, a test drive does not include keeping the car for a few years. That story is later in the News Extra.
This is Channel 27 News, straight to the point. With Jeff Gillen, Wendy Warren, Bob Lindmeyer, and Jay Wilson.
A Chicago drug investigation turned into a high-speed chase, which ended in tragedy. 3 people are dead, including an innocent bystander. Police say people inside this van shot them and then took off. Police followed in a high-speed chase onto the Dan Ryan Expressway, but then the van crossed into the oncoming lanes, hit another car, and exploded, killing the driver of the car and 2 women in the van. 2 men in the van were hurt. 1 had a gunshot wound. They both are facing charges. 2 Illinois children saved the lives of 5 younger relatives. The children had been left alone when fire broke out in their home. 11-year-old Dantel Ali ran across the street to the fire station for help, while his 9-year-old sister Chanel rounded up the younger children and got them out of the house. Nobody was hurt.
I can describe her as a hero.
You're proud of her?
Yeah, I'm very proud of her.
Investigators are looking into why there were no parents home at the time. It appears the woman left in charge had gone to pick up a relative who couldn't get a ride home from the job. In Philadelphia, 7 police dispatchers will be disciplined. 3 of them could be fired. It's over the beating death of this teenager. 911 tapes show dispatchers were rude and insensitive when more than 20 people called for help. The boy was beaten to death by a group of teenagers. It took dispatchers 40 minutes to send help. OJ is getting his own brand of justice. That's the word from Ron Goldman's father. He says OJ has bought the best defense money can buy. Ron Goldman was the man killed with Nicole Brown Simpson. His father says the media has all but forgotten his son.
It was especially the first few days where he wasn't even given a name. It was very painful, and that was the reason why within a few days my family and I spoke in front of our home and referred to Ron as Ron and made mention of the fact that he had a family, he had a life, he was a real person.
The jury selection in the Simpson case resumes tomorrow. The so-called Hollywood Madam trial is wrapping up. Lawyers started their closing arguments today in the Heidi Fleiss trial. She's charged with running a high-priced prostitution ring for Hollywood's rich and famous. The defense claims it's a case of police entrapment.
The fact that we have
tomorrow is the first congressional vote on an expanded version of the World Trade Agreement, GATT. Well, today the White House held one last pep rally for support. ABC's Deborah Weiner has more.
The White House gathered officials from every administration since President Eisenhower's, as President Clinton stressed bipartisan support for an agreement that's 8 years in the making.
Every time I talk to a world leader in the last 6 months, they have asked me the same thing. When is the United States going to act on GATT? The rest of the world is looking at us.
The White House released a pro-GATT letter signed by Presidents Ford, Carter, and Bush. Leading figures from past administrations urged Congress to ratify the agreement, arguing to delay GATT is to kill GATT.
Remember what the voters said on November the 8th. Get on with the nation's business. And to all of them, I would say, pass GATT. Pass GATT now.
Supporters say the trade agreement is good for the American consumer.
There will be, under the GATT, about $150 per family savings annually because of the fact that tariffs will be reduced, and so consumer goods will be that much less expensive for the average family.
Approval of the trade agreement is predicted in the House, where leaders from both parties support GATT, but passage in the Senate seems less certain.
We need more time to work out some changes in GATT. And if we can't find the changes, then we ought not to be enacting it.
The administration wants to avoid the kind of nail-biting votes that characterize the 103rd Congress. They're hoping the GATT vote will reestablish the president's clout as he prepares to work with the Republican-controlled 104th Congress. Deborah Weiner, ABC News, the White House.
Oh, tonight, rescuers are searching for at least one missing person after a tornado ripped through Tennessee. 3 people were killed by the twister. 2 men were crushed inside their home. Another woman died when the tornado hit her house. 13 members of that woman's family are still hospitalized. Police think one person is still trapped inside that home. And high winds hit northern Indiana today. A 22-year-old man was killed when his pickup truck hit a fallen tree head-on. Utility poles were leaning at 45-degree angles from the wind. Power companies reported 15,000 people were without electricity. And a winter storm hit hard in Minnesota. More than 8 inches of snow dumped on the state from the Iowa border to Duluth. Snow caused hundreds of accidents on the highways, but the state patrol says most of those wrecks were minor. A family trip gets sidetracked by the birth of a new family member. The high-flying story of this little guy's arrival into the world is still to come. Plus, Bob tells us these flurries will continue. Find out how long next.
Channel 27 News continues with Bob Lendmeyer weather.
We didn't see much snow today, just a few tenths of an inch, but it was enough to put some footprints in the snow and also to cause some driving problems. We had slippery spots and stretches this evening, but those have since subsided quite a bit. Let's take a look at what's happening now, and actually the snow has stopped. We're cloudy at the present time. Temperatures up 1 degree from last hour. We've been holding steady. Right now it's 31. Humidity level 75%. Winds are west at 17. Our wind chill factor's been the single digits all day. Right now it's 8 degrees above zero. Pressure rising at 29.74. Let's take a look back at, first of all, the next-rad Doppler radar, showing how the snow did move across the central and eastern portions of the state through the evening hours. Now, you'll notice how the snow is really cleared out of Dane County at the present time. It's primarily in east-central Wisconsin. I'm looking for no more than occasional flurries tonight with just trace accumulations. Looks like most of the accumulation has already occurred. Of course, it was quite a stormy Sunday across the nation. Look at this. They had tornadoes causing deaths, injuries, lots of damage through Arkansas, Tennessee, going down into Mississippi. On the other side of that storm system, there was widespread snow, and some of that snow was heavy. Here's the current snow cover. If you want to get out those cross-country skis or maybe the snowmobile, head north. There is quite a bit of snow on the ground. 7 inches at Park Falls, 11 inches at Superior, 5 at Wausau, 6 at Eau Claire, 2 inches at La Crosse. And that snow does extend well off to the west. You can see the refrigerating effect that snow cover had on high temperatures. Readings were just in the 20s through almost all of Minnesota. And, of course, readings around here this afternoon just in the low 30s, which is actually fairly close to normal for this time of year. That big storm has spun up to the north of us, now to the north of Lake Superior. And even though it's well away from us, its effects are still being felt. clouds are rotating underneath that storm, and along with that cloud cover, we are picking up this patchy light snow. But as next red Doppler radar showed you, it's pretty much subsided here in southern Wisconsin, but it still continues to the north of us. Here's what's happening. That storm center is actually well to our east now over southeastern Canada. But again, the light snow does extend down into Wisconsin. In the next 24 hours, that storm will move away, but we're still going to have a little bit of light snow around here. Temperatures will be on the cold side, highs just in the 30s, but winds will be a lot lighter. That means the wind chill factor not nearly as cold. Be back with more in a moment. We won't need snow scoop tomorrow morning. Things are going to gradually die down as we go through tomorrow. But we will have some occasional light snow. The forecast for tonight calls for just that, but just trace amounts expected, low near 26, west winds 10 to 15. For tomorrow, cloudy skies, occasional flurries, no accumulation. High just 31 degrees, west winds 10 to 15. That means a wind chill factor in the single digits and teens. For tomorrow night, mostly cloudy, low 21. Mostly cloudy skies on Wednesday, still rather chilly, high 34. But conditions will improve. If you like conditions on the warm side, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, highs will return to the 40s. So again, looks like most of our travel problems are behind us.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah. Don't like that kind of stuff. Thanks a lot, Bob. The Badgers finally know who they'll face in the Hall of Fame Bowl, and the Marquette Golden Eagles try to slow down the running Rebels of UNLV. Andy Kendi has sports straight ahead.
Channel 27 News continues with Andy Kendi, Sports.
When you think about Duke, you probably think about basketball. Coach Krzyzewski and the Blue Devils making what seems like their annual trip to the Final Four. Well, Badger fans, think again. Wisconsin will face the 25th ranked Duke Blue Devils in the Hall of Fame Bowl January 2nd at Tampa Stadium. Now, the Blue Devils are making just their second trip to a bowl game in 34 years. Duke's a high-scoring offensive team, averaging close to 33 points a game, but Barry Alvarez admits they're a bit foreign to him.
I don't have anything to say. We're going to exchange films. I'll see him on film on Wednesday, and I'll wait till that. I'm just excited about playing in the bowl game. I saw him play Army about the second Thursday or whenever it was during the season, just for a few minutes on TV. That's all I know about him. And if I remember right, they had a big fullback that ran all over the place and a good quarterback. And I know their coach.
Well, 5 Wisconsin Badgers are honored on the All-Big Ten first team, led by 3 members of UW's offensive line. Center Corey Raymer, guard Joe Rudolph, and tackle Mike Verstegen all make the first team. Defensive tackle Mike Thompson and defensive back Jeff Messenger make the list as well. Jason Manecki makes the second team. And speaking of honors, running back Terrell Fletcher is named the Badgers' most valuable player tonight at the Football Awards banquet. Fletch ran for more than 1,200 yards this season and led the team in scoring with 66 points. Number 41 also became the first Badger to gain more than 4,000 all-purpose yards in his career. Well, Bill Walsh steps down after 3 seasons as head coach at Stanford, and Colorado names 33-year-old Rick Neuheisel as their new coach. Neuheisel replaces Bill McCartney. The 49ers can clinch the NFC West with a win over the Saints. But watch what happens here. New Orleans defensive back Tyrone Hughes picks up the loose ball, jukes out Steve Young, takes Jerry Rice, and rumbles 87 yards for the touchdowns. The Saints are in it in the first half. But that guy Young again, 4 touchdown passes, ho-hum, 2 to Brent Jones. 7 in a row for the Niners. They clinched their division like nothing else is new in this world. The final 35-14. Well, Massachusetts takes the number 1 ranking in the new AP college basketball poll. UMass beat then top-ranked Arkansas, who this week falls to 4th. North Carolina is 2nd, Kentucky 3rd, UCLA is 5th. Wisconsin is the top-ranked Big Ten team this week, folks. The Badgers jump 2 more spots for the second week in a row. Minnesota enters the poll at 15th. The Gophers won the Great Alaskan Shootout. Michigan 17th, followed by Michigan State at 18th. The Marquette Golden Eagles and new head coach Mike Dean open with UNLV tonight. And Anthony Pieper drives the baseline, 2 of his team-high 19, but the game goes to overtime. Tony Miller leads the way. The Golden Eagles of Marquette are 1-0 with a final 82-74. A couple other games. Loyola wins the crosstown battle, and Ohio State gets a win. They beat Drexel by 7. A couple top 20 scores. Cincinnati beats Rutgers by 11, and Georgia Tech over Coastal Carolina by 12. A couple prep basketball scores to report in boys action. Lake Mills beats Johnson Creek 93-52. Girls winners, Albany. Darlington beats Pecatonica. Mount Horeb wins. Southwestern wins, and Monona Grove loses to McFarland 57-50 to the Alamo Dome for the Spurs and Timberwolves. And remember Vinny Del Negro? Vinny Del Negro of North Carolina State. Yes, he has a big night as the Spurs of San Antonio go on to beat the Wolves 92-88. One other game going on. Seattle is beating Indiana late. The UW volleyball team is getting ready to battle George Washington Wednesday night in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Wisconsin has to play on the road at GW, and George Washington's 31-3, but the Badgers aren't worried.
We got a really good scouting report. They will have nothing on us because of the Big Ten schedule. They can't get anything because we've been in the Big Ten for the last 10 weeks. So I think we'll be very well prepared. They'll have the home court advantage, and we'll see who wants it the most.
We competed with, the good, like the Ohio States and the Penn States, and whereas George Washington hasn't played nearly as tough a schedule as we have. So I think that that's a big advantage for us.
And finally, we end with a little boxing. Literally, Saturday night, Riddick Bowe will fight Larry Donald in a heavyweight match, but watch and listen to what Bowe does at this afternoon's press conference.
Ow. Now let's see that again. Oh, that's one big out. And needless to say, Larry Donald didn't know what hit him.
I guess.
Out. A cheap shot, though.
I guess.
That's what we call a cheap shot in the business.
I'm speechless. I can't believe he did that.
Hurts my jaw to look.
Yeah, wow. Way to psych him up for the big match, I guess. A little target practice goes a long way, and the holiday traffic is sinking in San Francisco. Stay tuned to News Extra now. Some power shooting and a brand new baby on board. Here's tonight's 27 News Extra. They got a lot more bang than they bargained for. 2 Indiana men were using a Chinese rifle for target practice. They didn't know the weapon had a range of more than a mile. One of the bullets threugh 3/4 of a mile and hit a house. The stray shot went through a wall, into the kitchen, through a bedroom, and stopped in a pillow. The traffic was pretty hairy in San Francisco today because of a huge sinkhole. The pavement opened up near Union Square overnight. It's about 12 feet long and 6 feet wide. Work crews say it'll take at least 2 days to fix it. A Rhode Island couple is in big trouble for putting a Mercedes in their garage. Philip Pizzuti decided he'd test drive a $37,000 Mercedes, but he drove off with the car, and it kept it in their garage for 4 years. A brand new mom is just flying high. Teresa DeBarro went into labor on a TWA flight from New York to Orlando, but doctors on board didn't have anything to cut the umbilical cord with, so a flight attendant went looking.
Didn't bother to ask those passengers, but instead asked the passenger who had a brand new pair of shoes. He gave up his place and they cut up the umbilical cord with a new shoelace.
Everyone else's was too dirty. The baby's name is Matthew Dulles DeBera, his middle name after Washington Dulles Airport, where the plane made its emergency landing so he could be born. A Michigan trio inspires a little melody. We'll explain why these folks are serenading babies next. You may remember the triplets born to the governor of Michigan and his wife. Well, now the Engler three have their own melody. The governor's new daughters inspired a group of seniors to put their feelings into song. The governor has even requested a copy of the song. The musicians hope to perform it for the governor and his girls, and they hope their melody will make it into the history books along with the Engler triplets. We'll see. What's up in the morning?
Tomorrow morning, still a few flurries around. I think we'll have fair driving conditions. Could be a little bit better, but temperatures in the 20s, so definitely a winter coat morning, pretty cold.
Okay, sounds good. And you have an update?
Women's hoops starts tomorrow. Jane Albright Dieterle, in terms of their home opener tomorrow against Western Illinois, they're 2-0. So
all right.
Go out and see them.
Good deal. Well, it should be a good season. Fun to watch them.
Should be. We hope.
All righty. Well, thanks for staying up with us. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
If you see news happening, call the Channel 27 News line at 273-2727 or toll free on your Cellular One phone, *27.